We're up to our entire interview with the great Andy Kim. This is our second interview. He came on camera this time, and it was nice having him share the screen with us. He's such an insightful man, says so many things that make you stop and ponder. In this series, he's going to talk about working with Jeff Barry, actually moving from Montreal to New York to work with Jeff Barry, who gave us Do Wah Diddy Diddy, The Do Run Run, Then He Kissed Me, Be My Baby, Chapel of Love, River Deep, Mountain High, and a lot more. But that's Jeff Barry. He worked with Andy Kim and they created some great music together. Baby I Love You was one of their big million sellers. But in this whole interview, Andy Kim talks about a lot of deep stuff about getting what you want. He's not an overthinker, he says. To him, getting things done is important. Getting out of the way and letting the inspiration come through. We talk about the hits in this one. How in 1974, Andy Kim thought his 15 minutes were over. He thought, that was it, I've had a lot of hits. But then, as producer, writer, and singer, he created Rock Me Gently, one of the biggest songs of 1974. It was #1. We talk about that and a lot more with the great Andy Kim, including, of course, his time at the Brill Building in New York City. Good day, sir.
Good day. How are you?
I'm fine. You and I talked a couple of years ago for the benefit.
Mais oui.
After we talked, my then 18-year-old son came upstairs. He was editing my video for Extra Cash.
Yeah.
Very serious drummer. He came upstairs and he said, "This Andy Kim guy's pretty cool."
Oh, wow.
You know what he said? He said, this guy's, because he was listening. We were talking in the beginning of the last interview about giving back. It's something that he was writing an essay on at the time. He quoted you in his essay for school because he said, I know, Dad, I edit a lot of your interviews, but this guy's plugged into something. That's what he said. There you go.
Wow. Oh, man. That's probably the best gift I ever received, man. Thank you.
He loves listening to the interviews, loves classic rock and pop, but there's just certain people he'll come up and he'll go, "Tell me more about this guy." And I said, "Well, you heard the interview." He says, "No, but tell me, like, where they've been. Tell me more." I'm going, so there you go. So can we start with that? Let's start.
Absolutely.
You don't have to give back. There's no rules of this. You've given a lot to the industry, but here you are doing the benefit again this year. You're coming here to Calgary for a couple of shows as well, and I'll make sure I plug it really, really well. But what is it in you? Is this something instilled in your parents? Is it something you nurture nature? Where did you get that?
There's a Buddhist saying, "Born round, do not die square." So, I don't think too much. I just live this blessed life one day at a time. I never carry yesterday's hurt or misunderstandings or what happened 24, 48 hours. I'm in the moment all the time, and I didn't know that's who I was. I guess I was that way as a kid. But I just think that somewhere along the way, I just realized that this is my one and only life. No sequel. So I kind of have always done what I've wanted to do and thought about what am I doing now and not looking. I'll be honest with you. I've not regretted, I should have done this. I could have done that. It's a waste of time because it just brings sorrow and confusion into the moment that you are living. So as long as you know that you are born with a certain amount of heartbeats, you don't know how many you've been given. You may as well be doing the things that you love to do with the people that you love. And when other people show up to kind of disturb your day or trip you up, or there's a misunderstanding, make it brief, because you're not going to get those heartbeats back. And I think as soon as I started realizing that it's all ephemeral. You're here, but there are other things that kind of trap you into staying there as opposed to here.
I was talking to Jeff Skunk Baxter, with the Doobies and Steely Dan. I asked him, I said, do you sound like you're comfortable in your skin? You don't sound like you're not. He said something very similar to what you just said. He said, I sometimes you don't have time to overthink something. Sometimes, he's the guy who brought Michael McDonald and the Doobie Brothers. He said, sometimes decisions have to be made and then you get on with it.
Yeah. You know what? When you mentioned that, the first time I heard Michael McDonald with the Doobies, I thought, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense until I heard it. And then it made all the sense. Michael in the band, and it just becomes another layer. And that's what you're living at that moment,
Yeah.
So I also think that fear is a radar that people run to a lot. I can't. I'm waiting on. There's a lot of the misunderstanding as to why you're here. You're not here to wait. You're here to know who you are. You're here to know what information are you giving yourself? What courage are you giving yourself? What abilities are you working on? Not yesterday, not what this guy did or this someone else did. So I want to know, how did the Doobies reach out to Michael, and how did he say yes, by the way?
Well, he knew Jeff Skunk Baxter, and Jeff Tom got sick at the end of his show, and they had to make a decision. And he said, "We've got to do this. We don't have time. He's good. He wants to do it. Let's get it done." And he brought him in. Got a lot of flack in the beginning, but then of course, after taking it to the streets, living on the fault line, and then minute by minute, their biggest album, boom. By the way, how does a kid from Montreal? I watched the Brill Building show. I just loved seeing you in front there, looking in the window. I mean, that touched me, man. But how does a kid, and you were a kid, go from Montreal to New York? Like, what's the
transistor radio changed my life. I grew up in the tenements of Montreal. My brothers and I, and mom and dad, and there's a sense of community when you're around people that are living like you, without much stuff, basically. And as I reflected upon it, as my life started to get into the middle years, and I look back and I realized that my destiny was already predicted, because I lived in the tenements, and I borrowed my older brother Joseph's transistor radio. It was kind of an old thing that kind of worked. And I found WABC in New York, and I found WKBW in Buffalo.
I used to listen to WKBW from New Brunswick. And by the way, I'm from Verdun, by the way. I was born in Verdun.
Oh, it's pas français un petit peu?
Un petit peu. Not, been a long time. Well, Baudin. My name is Baudin, but I don't speak French anymore.
But I found, for myself, I found that the transistor radio gave me a dream that was more of a dream, but it became a belief system. I would hear the disc jockeys talk about the songwriters and the songs, but also mostly about the artist, and that they're coming to town, or the band that wasn't in town The girls chased them, and it was completely another world. Today we have everything at our disposal. Back then, there was nothing for me except to dream this. And the dream was so magnificent that I would go to New York, and I would meet someone. I went to New York especially to meet Jeff Barry, whom I eventually met. And the reason why is because I loved the excitement of KBW, and Joey Reynolds was on the radio at that time, and I forget what time his time slot was, but it was WABC that really had people going to Palisades Park, and they're going to appear here, and they're doing this, and it opened up a world. We didn't have a TV till later on in life, but it just opened up a world for me that I dreamt I could do this. And I remember my dad coming up to me and said, what are you talking about? We've never heard you sing. You have a guitar that's kind of got a crack in it. and I said, but it's okay, because I really believed in that dream. And I don't mean to go on and on and on about it.
No,
but
please.
It gave me the courage to get on a bus and go to New York City. The side story is that I had second cousins that I had never met in New Jersey. So they were an hour and maybe 20 minutes away. So it gave my mom and dad a little security that I was going to be in a hood of family. But I wasn't interested until I got to meet them, and they became like my second family, But I was looking for Jeff Barry. Because all the songs that I loved, that I heard, from Be My Baby to the Do Run Run and all of them, it either said Phil Spector, Jeff Barry, Ellie Greenwich, or it said Jeff Barry, Ellie Greenwich, Phil Spector. And, River Deep, Mountain High, all those great songs. And so I went to the Brill Building. I went to the 9th floor. I asked to speak to Jeff. He was tied up, didn't know when they could see me. And so I just sat there. I said, well, can I just sit here? And Bonnie was her name, because it was really Lieber and Stolder's offices, but they were all cubicles where, everyone was writing. You heard music everywhere. And so then she said, well, he can give you like a few minutes. So I walked in with my guitar, and I sat down, and he was on the phone, and he was talking very softly. I had no idea what he was talking about. I don't even know what he looked like. And like 10 minutes went by, and 15 minutes went by, and he didn't look up. He was strictly looking at the dial tone on the phone and talking, whispering to someone. And I finally found out what it was about, but it's for another conversation between us. And I started thinking, well, maybe I'm in the wrong office. I have no idea who this guy is. She said he's Jeff Barry. And he wore cowboy boots, and his feet were on the desk, and he was leaning back. Oops, he got up. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
He got up and said, okay, I don't have time. You got a couple of minutes, play me what you got. So I played him. How did we ever get this way? And he said, okay, well, I like this, I like that. He says, why don't you come back next week? And I said, well, I've got to go back. My mom and dad want me to go back and all of this. And he said, well, when you come back to New York, you can get our numbers from Bonnie and all of this. And it was just kind of a cloud of stuff, or a storm of stuff. And he got up and he said, I got to go. And as I was reaching for the door, I put my guitar away. I think I said the sentence that saved my life. I said, excuse me, can I come with you? I've never been in a recording studio before. Because he mentioned I've got to go to studio. And he said, have you had lunch? I said, yeah. He said, well, I usually have a sandwich and I'll give you half. So we went, got a sandwich. I was really hungry, but I nibbled on it, watched how he nibbled, I nibbled. And we went to a studio that was a hotel, but you went downstairs and it was Mira Sound Studios. And he said, he kind of waved me off like, okay, you can sit over there. And he walked in and there were musicians and things. And I stayed for a couple of seconds because there was no music coming. And I got up and he saw me and he kind of waved me down. Like, you can stay longer if you want to. And I stayed, I don't know, a couple of more minutes and then ran to the Brill Building, went to the 9th floor, got the addresses and phone numbers and all of that stuff. And that's how it started. I needed to get back to Montreal. I was still in high school. But my parents really didn't understand anything about that world. And I didn't understand it, but I was living it in increments. But nothing surprised me, though, because I think I've thought about it long and hard, and I think when you believe in something so hard, there are layers of dark curtains that are going to stop you because you don't understand how this works, but you see a destination. And I saw beyond the dark mirrors. And I saw me in the studio and I saw me in front of a microphone. I saw it all. But now you've got to get there. It's like you're in Montreal and let's say you got to get to Plattsburgh. Well, you got to drive there. You got to, if it's raining, you got to be careful, all of that stuff. So I'm kind of amazed at my life. And I used to fly home once a week. I may have told you this last time, to have dinner with, my brothers and my mom and dad. And my mom would cry and I'd leave at the end of dinner because I needed to be in New York. And I think she felt her third son slipping away a little bit. But there's a Khalil Gibran saying that you're a child and you come from your parents. I'm paraphrasing. But you belong to yourself. You don't belong to them. You belong to yourself. They are the bow and you are the arrow. And you will go where you go. And maybe I've always searched and saw things that helped me navigate my life without thinking about it.
You're the first guy that I've ever interviewed in 40 years, I think, that ever quoted or paraphrased Khalil Gibran. I used to give out the Prophet at Christmas. I used to give it to my friends.
It's a great book. It's a great book. And there's a history about my father and Khalil Gibran and my grandparents that I never met because, life was different back then. Your children come from you, but they don't belong to you is really the quote, So I don't know. I think sometimes I just kind of, just live in this bubble of me. but the bubble of me is still the kid that grew up in the tenements. We needed to get to the alleyway, so we would have to go down some. We had our names on broomsticks to shoo the critters away, you know. And so I've always felt that the blessing that I received as far as my dream goes, I have felt that, you know, God's angels have come and guided me throughout my life. And as it is in the tenements, we are all strangers, yet we help each other to see a better day. And I think that's always been kind of my purpose.
I don't know what it is. Something happens, I think, to certain people, whether you like it or not, being discerning. See, to me, you seem like a guy who you got that earlier than I got that. You got a lot earlier of picking the right things. And what is it in you that can, like when you said, I've never seen a recording studio. I look at that and I'm going, talk about it, changing the trajectory, like you said it, of your life by just saying that.
I think, you know, it's like, what did they talk about? Hindsight, you know, it's 20/20 vision. I think I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I don't do a dance. You know, someone once said to me, "Oh, you're an icon." I said, "No, Elvis is an icon. I'm one of those guys that got lucky and had hit records and did exactly what my life's purpose was." But I can't compare anyone with anyone else. I listened to your story and I think that it's not a surprise. You'll find out one day that your journey was how your journey was supposed to be. So what did you do about your journey? How did you find you? And how did you find this moment? Well, sometimes it means getting lost in the woods. You know, I should have gone left, but you went right, you know? And so, you know, I'm not saying that life is without sorrow. Life is without confusion. Life is without regret. I'm just saying I came to a point early on where the lessons were learned, but I didn't live them. They didn't own me. And so, look, I'm just trying to be the best that I can be. And, you know, I look at other artists and some people walk around telling you how great they are and how many records they sold and all of this. And I walk around saying, I'm so fucking lucky to have said yes to this life and be emotional about the decisions that I made. I'm not living someone else's life is what it is, you know?
Yeah. The benefit shows. Who's on it? Where are you going?
Well, you know what? I have a list. I have like 3 or 4 people. Men Without Hats are coming to Toronto to perform for us and help Cam H Gift of Light. Alex Lifeson is going to be there as well. We have, you're familiar with Tom Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's familiar with Tom Wilson.
Yeah, he's larger than life.
Yeah. Obviously, Ron Sexsmith's going to be there. He's been there every year, except 1 year. He was working on an album or something. So starting off with those 3, Maestro Fresh West is going to be with us, which blows me away. I'm just excited about that.
Jeff Barry, how did it go from watching him eating a sandwich, trying to be cool, you know, balancing that Montreal, New York thing? How did that get to Sugar Sugar?
Well, Well, you know, there's that great motto in the Brill Building: you're only as good as your last 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So How Do We Ever Get This Way became a hit. You know, I think we sold 800,000 units. We were in the teens in one of the trays. There was Billboard, Cashbox, Record World, and R&R at the time, I think. I came back to New York and played Jeff the finished song. And what I didn't have was a chorus that I liked. So I had written several choruses. But when I was singing it to him, I didn't have a chorus. But I had the melody. Ba la 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 la, ba la 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 la, ba la 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 la. So he says, "Well, that's the chorus." And I was internally a little crushed because I had never heard a ba la 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 chorus. So I didn't know where this was going to lead. And I had just a certain amount of time, about a week or 10 days. And then I became a little bit of a shadow. You know, he would go and he'd say, "You want to come?" and all of this. And so we were at the elevator and he gave me a piece of paper. And the piece of paper, and I get choked up about it. It was the day, the time of recording How Do We Ever Get This Way. He didn't tell me, he just wrote it down to make sure I got there. And that became the chorus. The follow-up single was a song called Shoot 'Em Up Baby. The lyrics, if you were to read the lyrics, are about my mom and dad and their age difference. But it was released on the day Robert Kennedy got shot. And people thought that it was about drugs. And so from, I think, the Times to, it was banned on radio stations, except some radio stations in the South played it, you know. And so I saw my career kind of go down the tubes because I really loved the song and I loved the melody and all of that stuff. And then we had recorded Rainbow Ride kind of at the same time, and some people thought that was an issue. And so Baby I Love You showed up and we went in the studio. Everybody was ready to play. I mean, it was kind of a simple idea that Jeff wanted to put through, but it wasn't working. After half an hour, he, for the first time, got angry, just let the whole band go. And I saw my career go out the window because I went from How Do We Ever Get This Way to a song that was banned. And I was writing and thinking things that did not exist in my life, but the double entendre that people felt. And so he gave me instructions. He said, you know, you got to go to, he gave me the name of the studio, and I'll come up with it. And I want you to rent 5 guitars, rent a set of drums, castanets, and he gave me a long list of stuff. And between How Do We Ever Get This Way and this, I would always want to go if I heard that someone was recording and they were looking for instruments, rental stuff. I would volunteer to go get it because I was excited about being there and a part of the journey of it all. So we went, it was A&R Studios in New York, and it's the big room, he said. So the big room is like, you can put a symphony in there. He had me sit down on a stool in the middle of the room. He went into the studio, into the sound booth. He started clapping a tempo. And what my instructions were to just play the guitar. When the birth of that idea was, I was playing the guitar from just a completely different, because I had never heard where that song came from. And so I was just kind of playing it, and he just loved the groove that I was playing. So when you hear "Baby, I Love You" and you hear the explosion at the beginning, you hear, well, that's my finger hitting the round hole on the guitar. And if I'm able to get a pocket, which means just get it exactly the way Jeff wanted it. It took me 2 times. I did it once, and he said, okay, well, just let's do it again just to see if it's any better. If I do something and I need to double it, I can double it exactly the way that is. I don't know why or how, but and especially sometimes if you're playing something and you're out of sync with it, then, so 5 guitars later, he mashed all those guitars and gave us the sound for me to sing to. And then you played a kick drum with your hand, you hit a cymbal, but Jeff was able to play drums. And then, at the end of the day, we had someone by the name of Chuck Rainey. I don't know if you know that name, but you should. Who came and kind of glued it all together. And my vocal just sat in the perfect place. And so that was kind of my first million seller. And it hit the charts May 24th, 1969. May 24th, 1969 was also the day and year that Sugar Sugar was released. But nobody played it till July because, it was a comic book.
Baby, I Love You. How does a song like that? I mean, that's one of those songs I remember the first time I heard it. But how does a song like that change your life? How do your friends and parents react to that?
My parents, there was no reaction that way. They just wanted me to be home. Why can't you stay home? Why can't you do this at home? Well, basically, I didn't know what I was doing. And I needed someone like Jeff Barry in my life to teach me. And so, you learn, and then you learn to grow beyond the field that you're planting. Yeah. And so, I've always been very, very, I'm happy where I am. And going home was not going to save me. This was going to save me, So they would hear my songs on the radio, and there would be kind of little comment because it really didn't, my parents were elderly. So I had 2 brothers, and then I think 13, 14 years later, they had 2 more sons. And and they were old school. So it's not that I ran away from home, but I did. But I sure was happy that my destination brought me here.
Sugar Sugar.
Well, you know what? The Monkees had just been canceled because, and I hate that word, by the way. But they had just been canceled and because they didn't write their own songs, and Sinatra never wrote a song in his life. Streisand never wrote a song.
Look at Elvis.
Elvis never wrote a song, in his life. So it's just was an excuse to, I don't know what. But I knew that something was happening. Like, we went to the moon. Woodstock was happening. So everybody had to be like cool and serious, and then you come up with an Archie record that's from the comic books, TV series. But it's the same gentleman, Don Kirshner, who chose all the records and the producers for the Monkees. And it was kind of a cattle call. You know, he wasn't like, oh, I'd like Andy Kim and Jeff to write a song. No, it was just a bunch of people that got the call. I'm looking for a song for the Archies. And so you don't know if you're going to be picked or not. Sorry, man. I didn't realize I was not screen friendly.
You're screen friendly.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
As you can tell, I've probably done maybe 2 or 3 Zoom calls in my life.
No, that's perfect.
So that was the issue. The issue was, what's the relevance of this song? And it's a comic book, and they're on Saturday morning. They're cartoon characters. It's not real. You know, it's like having the Simpsons have a hit song, you know. But one promotion man made a bet with a program director in San Francisco that if he thought that this song was a hit, would he play it? And the guy said, of course, you know, put your money there. And so he played it for him. What he didn't know was that it was a blank CD, I'm sorry, a blank acetate, with every curse word you can see on it or read on it. And so it kind of gets whatever you think out of your mind, and you're just listening to Sugar Sugar. And at the end of 2 minutes and 30 seconds, by the way, the program director said, okay, it sounds like a hit. Who is it? And the promotion guy said, the Archies. He said, I can't play that. He said, what do you mean you can't play it? He says, you told me that. He said, no, man. He says, you know, we play the hits, and we play all these top artists and stuff, and we can't play this. And he said, but you promised me. He said, okay, I'll play it one time. And I think the promo guy said, well, play it at a good time, like a drive time. He played it one time, and their phones jammed at the station. And that was the first inclination that the guy was going to play it again and again, because people didn't stop wanting to hear this song. To be honest, I understand it. I get it. I sing it. I'm happy. I'm smiling. But I never took it for granted. You know, when it went on selling millions of records all over the world, and you know, you could get up and sing that song and people would feel great. I still am amazed. I'm amazed at my life, let alone on that song.
I was watching the video of Be My Baby this morning. You're on a show. And is it not Mariska from Shocking Blue that brings you?
Yes, that's her.
Because she had, well, she's dead now, but
yeah,
she had such a distinctive look. And I'm going, that's a gal from Shocking Blue. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did she speak English? I don't remember.
Somewhat, but not too much.
Mm-hmm.
Enough to get along, you know. Don't smile.
I loved your version of that song. I mean, the excitement for me has always been the creation in the studio. You know, it's like you write a song and you get excited about it, but the fillers are the gong 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 gong, those little sounds that create the tapestry of the melody and the lyric. You know, I'm going to ask you a question. You can just don't struggle through it if you don't know it, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay.
What is the first line of the first verse of Sugar Sugar?
Isn't it sugar?
Well, that's the chorus. That's not
the first line. I don't know. Okay.
Well, I could tell you, but that would be cheesy if I told you.
You can tell me.
Well, I used to uh, get together with our young artists and people that wanted to be songwriters and stuff. As you get older, everybody thinks that you have the answer, but you have no answers. You have more questions than you have answers. But so they're, we're talking, and they're talking about, that they're doing this and they're doing that, and songs, and I said, I'm going to give you a line, and tell me where it's from. And I said, I just can't believe the loveliness of loving you. Leonard Cohen. No, not Leonard Cohen. And they'd go on and on. They'd mention Joni. They'd mention everybody. And I said, well, it's the first line of the first verse. And I paused, of Sugar, Sugar. I just can't believe the loveliness of loving you. I just can't believe it's you. I just can't believe the wonder of this feeling too. But no one knows the lyrics. They just know the chorus. It's okay. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. But I often marvel at the thought behind the lyrics, because it's a romantic lyric for me. Then it gets sexy along the way.
With Rock Me Gently, you hit me at a good time, man. I was like I was one of those guys who liked everything. I'm the guy who had Saturday Night Fever and Zeppelin 4 coming to school. I mean, to me, music was music, and I didn't understand. We still live in a world where someone says, you like that? I'm going, well, you either like Justin, I don't like Justin Bieber, but you either like Justin Bieber or you don't. You either like Andy Kim or you don't. You either like, if it makes you feel good, my God, how could you argue with that? But I love telling this to artists, Rock Me Gently. I remember like turning around the bass line, that guy played with freaking Zappa. That's crazy. Michael Lomardian on keys, Ed Green on drums. I mean, I used to call that song a perfect hit single, like a perfect song. Tell me about that one.
Well, this will solidify that God's angels have surrounded me and helped me. I moved from New York City. There was an exodus. Everyone left from New York City to distant lives of LA. And so I packed my bags and went to LA, and for me, I had a penthouse on Sunset. I had a brand new Mercedes. I didn't know how to drive. My business manager got me a brand new Mercedes and a penthouse, with a bunch of rooms. So I had surpassed my 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And one morning I woke up and I'm always, if I'm going to have the guitar, I'm going to have my cassette player playing, because the stream of consciousness comes and then you try to get it back, but you're missing some kind of nuance. Yeah. So I write the song, and if I didn't have a lyric, I would dance around it in a melody and the chorus and all of this. But by mid-morning, I had written the whole song. And I just like, my God, I love this song. I love this song. And I kind of left it and came back to it. And I would play the cassette version because there was a couple of things that I did melodically that I wanted to hold on to. I just said, okay, I'm going to go and I'm the writer, the artist. I'm going to be the producer as well, because I didn't know anyone. And so if I learned anything in all those years, it would be that I could stand on my own 2 feet and make this record. But I didn't know any musicians. So I called a friend of mine in LA and he said, well, why don't you call the Musicians Union? Okay, I called and I said, my name's Andy Kim, and I just went to the studio, and it's a brand new tracking room, and it's on Gower, and I was giving her more information than she wanted, probably. And I said, and Andy, I would like 5 musicians. She said, great. They'll be there at 8:00. It was a Friday. I still remember. Raining. I went to McDonald's and ate on the way to the studio. And it was raining on a Friday night. And I walk in and the guys are there, except the bass player is not there. And
Max Bennett.
Max Bennett.
Yes.
So I introduced myself and everyone, and I don't know. I mean, I had a lot of hits in LA, so I don't put yesterday as a foundation for my tomorrow or my today. It's all in a new day. Nobody knows who I am, and if they do, thank you. But I've moved on from myself. I'm here now. So. So we go in the studio, and I'm not a great guitar player, but I write. I'm not a great keyboard player, but I write. And so all these guys are like, and I have no idea who they are. I mean, I know their names, but Ed and Michael and Dean and Larry. Can't believe Larry was on that session, So I'm doing kind of okay explaining to them that I don't want it to be poppy. This is really kind of a sexy tune. And I always start with, at least for me, this was my first time alone. I always start with the lyrics. Because if you hear the lyrics, you get into a mood. Ain't it good, ain't it right that you're with me here tonight in music? And I wanted to make a Staples Records groove. Not, I'm not going to do 5 guitars. I'm not going to go in and so while I'm talking to the guys, the door opens and I realize it's a bass player, and I have no idea who it is, but it's a bass player, right? So as I'm talking to them, he's starting to play the gadoo, the gadoon doot, the gadoon. And so I asked the guys, hold on a sec. And I went to him and I said, so what is that? He said, I'm just tuning my bass. I said, but that's how the record starts. The gadoon doon doon, doon 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 doon. Could you do that? And that is, I'm telling you, I don't think of these things. Someone has surrounded me and said, if you have enough courage, great people will come into your life and they'll help you. It's the way I look at it. So about 45 minutes later, we had cut the track, and it was like, oh my God. But I left a bunch of bars open. So I had the verse, the verse A, verse B, chorus all down, and then verse A and verse B has a second chorus. And but there's a gap because I don't know. I don't want a guitar solo. I don't want to hear sax solo. I just want to hear something that I've never heard before. So I had gone to a party in Malibu, and someone was driving me back. And the building I was in was on, if you've been to Sunset and Horn, there was a Tower Records on the corner, not too far from the Roxy. And up there, you can see a building. And then you can see the city. So I said, you know what? And I want my B-side, because I don't have a B-side, to be what the Isley Brothers and other people have done. It's an instrumental version of the A-side. So what basically happened was I'm coming back from a party in Malibu, and the radio's on, and I hear what I want to hear. So I can't wait for morning to come. So this was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I can't, because I can't wake Michael Omartian up. And I am. So I wait to a decent hour, and I call him and I say, I got what I want. He said, what's that? I said, Stevie Wonder on my record. He said, okay, well, I'll tell you what you need to get. And he told me exactly the kind of clavs I needed to get and all the stuff that I wouldn't have understood what to get. I'm telling you, those angels have been taking care of me. And I have a responsibility to take care of a lot of other people, So he comes in, and I think, well, he did the first take, and I loved the first take. And he said, well, I got a couple of, I think he was there for maybe 20 minutes, and then he was gone. And I was like, I can't believe this is my record. I'm not only the writer, I'm the artist, I'm the producer, I'm the publisher. Now I got to get a record company. And I went everywhere from A&M to RCA to all of that stuff. And that's another story. And everybody said no, because my 2 minutes and 30 seconds have been up, according to all those people. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to, the last person that said no, I got in the car, and there were tears in my eyes. I didn't know why they weren't hearing what I heard. So I called home, and my mom picked up, and I said, Mom, I'm coming home. Well, she was ecstatic. And I said, but I'm only going to be there for maybe a month, because I'm going to start my own record company. It's going to be called ICE, International and Canadian Entertainment. I had this whole vision of everything. And I'm going to start promoting it. But she didn't understand a word I was saying, except that I'm coming home. But I just blurted out. I'm just going to go to the border states, and I'm going to get played again on American radio, and then it's going to climb up the charts. And what basically happened was somebody called me from, I'd gone to LA. The record was happening. It's a long story, but basically, some stations saw that America was not playing it. They stopped playing it. They didn't want to play it anymore, not because of anything, but because America was not playing it.
Heard a lot of that.
Heard a lot of that, and you'll hear it today. So I got a phone call, and someone said, is Andy Kim there? And I said, hi, it's me. He said, hi. He said, everywhere I go in Detroit, the mom and pop stores, the Handelman, which was a one-stop, everyone's asking about your record. And you need records in this market. And I said, yeah, I spoke to a trucker. I may have a trucker coming with 10,000 units in a couple of weeks. He said, no, you don't understand. He said, you need 20,000 units in the Detroit, Michigan market on Monday. This was like a Wednesday. And I said, does this mean you want to sign me? He said, no, I don't want to sign you. I don't want you to lose this record. It's a #1 record. I've heard it. I don't want you to lose it. So I did that. And the following week, 20,000 units were in Michigan. The following week of that, it was number 88 in Billboard. Stations that had dropped me, now they played me, kind of pissed me off. But it's the way it is. And that guy's name, I want you to look him up because I think he's historic. His name is Al Khoury. At that time, he was vice president in charge of A&R and promotion at Capitol. He went on to be part of RSO and brought the Bee Gees a gazillion albums. Just a very magical human being. He's passed on now. A magical human being that was interested in the music and in the promotion of it, and fought for this artist that he signed. They eventually signed me, but I think I was top 50 by that point, on the way to #1. You know, it was on the charts for 4 months, if you can believe it.
Yeah, I remember some people say that one took it's one. I don't know if it holds a record to get to #1, but it was a long way. Yeah,
and so many people have come and raised me up to a place I felt I wanted to be or belonged or something. And so deep down inside, it was incredible. And to try to explain or try to make any sense of it all, to be honest with you, it's hard for me. What's easy is that every moment in time, something magical is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then it moves. The waves keep moving. I don't dissect things. You know, I don't know how to. I try to sometimes, and it becomes all pieces of something. I think it's a Martin Luther King quote, but maybe you can find it, or I should look it up because I say it enough. To analyze is to paralyze. So I never stopped in my tracks to think, am I doing this right? I'm just existing. I'm existing in this moment. You know, I mean, 3 people knocked on that door. I got 3, 4 phone calls, and they don't belong in my life. I'm sorry I didn't pull down the blinds and turn off the phone. Because this time was meant for us to communicate. Didn't matter what we said or what we didn't say. You know, it was time. And I believe in a spirituality that, you know, comes from not only understanding the blessing, but the forgiveness of things that you can't change. that you think you can, the things you want to change. So again, I don't know. I don't have that answer.
I used to hear, little mother statements like my mother didn't say it, but women would tell me, "Oh, the fastest way to make a miracle disappear is to ask why it's here." And I remember going, "Well, that sounds like a lyric," but I remember going, "There's something in that." I mean, because kind of what you're saying of going, just be in the moment, enjoy the moment, cherish the moment. I appreciate you a lot. I really do. Thank you.
Pass it on. Thank you so much. I appreciate you listening, and you yourself gave me so much. We'll talk about that some other time.
We will. Take care, man.
God bless you.
You too.
Hope you enjoyed that. The great Andy Kim, we love presenting you with the whole interviews where you can get a better feel for who the person is. Remember, if you want to donate to the channel, there are links in the description where you can do that via PayPal. We always appreciate if you can help. It helps us build our channel. You can join our Patreon, get early access to all our videos. But do like the videos, subscribe to the channel, share them on social media, and comment on them as well. I'm John Beaudin. Take good care of yourself.